this off. All right. Welcome to the a joint meeting of the Tampa and Atlanta Pardot / account engagement community groups. This is going to be a presentation that I'm pretty excited about. I was just telling before this started, I was telling Erin that this is a functionality that I don't understand as well as I would like to. So the flow and what she's going to share is definitely going to be helpful and valuable. This is recorded, and so the recording will be, and I'm sure a variety of places, on YouTube, the Pardot Geeks blog. It'll probably end up on a Sercante blog somewhere, potentially. Yeah, so it'll be around for reference for the future. Without further ado, Erin, feel free to take over and introduce yourself and get going.
Yeah. So hey everyone, I'm Erin Duncan. I am the Account Engagement Product Director at Sercante. I have been a account engagement / Pardot user for about 13 years now, and I really love nerding out on the new features and finding out everything about them that I can. So that's what I did with this new feature, and we'll go through how to use it and the considerations to keep in mind. All right, so this new feature is technically called the Account Engagement Bulk Asset Copy Flow, but a lot of people are referencing it as, copy assets between business units. This is part of the Summer 23 release and the Summer 24 release. The reason being is it technically came out in Summer 23, but the flow wasn't launched to Salesforce orgs until about a month later. So that is why it's also included in the Winter 24 notes. But if you check your org, you should have this flow now. I've checked about 6 orgs so far, and it has been in all of them. And it doesn't matter if you have multiple business units or not tied to that org. As long as you have account engagement, you should have this flow. So this flow allows you to copy assets between your account engagement business units, and those assets include custom fields, engagement studio programs, files, custom redirects, and email templates. And that is the classic email templates, not Lightning email templates. There are a lot of considerations for each asset type, which we'll go through. But first, let's do a little bit of a demo of the flow. So, and I know when people hear, we're going to use a flow for this, some people who, if you're not a Salesforce admin, get a little panicky. Flows can be a little intimidating, but I promise this flow is super easy. So in Salesforce, you're going to want to go to Setup and search for flows. And you should see this account engagement bulk asset copy flow. So you can just open that. And you don't want to edit anything here. You just want to go up to the corner and click Run. And it's going to essentially walk you through the steps to copy assets between your business units. So up here, you can select your source business unit and your destination business unit. So in this org, I only have 2. So I'm going to copy assets from business unit A to business unit B. And then you can select your assets to copy. So here it's got each asset type, and we can select, or we can see all the assets in business unit A and select which ones we want. Now it does recommend selecting only up to 5 assets of each type, because otherwise the copy time can be a little slow. So for this example, I'm just going to select 1 asset for each type. And then on the next screen, we'll just confirm the assets. So it pretty much shows the same thing as before. It just includes the ID. And then here is where you're going to configure the asset details. So every asset that you include in one run of the flow will be stored in the same folder, will have the same campaign, and will be assigned the same tracker domain. So if you are going to copy assets that belong either in different places or belong to different campaigns, you may want to run the flow multiple times. So then you can assign that as they're created and not have to go into the assets after they're created and edit this information. So we're going to put these in uncategorized. We'll use our email campaign and the Linux soft domain. And then we select copy. So this screen is a little tricky. So if you remember, I selected 5 assets previously, but it's saying only 2 were successful. So that means 3 failed. It doesn't tell me, it doesn't give me the list of the ones that failed. If everything failed, you're still going to get this confirmation screen, but it's not going to list any assets. There's nothing that makes it super clear that something has failed. You just have to kind of count the number of assets that you told it to copy and then the number of assets on the confirmation screen. Sometimes when I'm doing this, I will screenshot the assets I select. So that way, when I get to the confirmation screen, it's very easy to compare and contrast which ones failed. We'll get into the considerations so you can see why some of them failed. But before that, if anyone has any questions on the flow or wants to see anything again, we can kind of pause for that discussion.
There was a question from Kara asking, how do you change the name, or do you wait until it's created and then edit?
You wait until it's created and then edit, yeah. There's no way to edit the assets when you copy them outside of the folder, campaign, and tracker domain.
And you said that the error, it like when something errors out, it doesn't tell you why it errored out.
Yeah.
So what do you do in that scenario? Do you just like go in and like tinker until you figure out why it didn't work, or is there a kind of list of like kind of typical reasons for why something would error out?
Yeah, the considerations will kind of point you in the right directions. I did check, so you can check your failed flow interviews in Salesforce, but unfortunately, nothing shows up for this one. So like if in a typical failed flow interview, if something goes wrong, you're going to have something here that tells you what went wrong and why. This flow doesn't do it. So I was hoping when I was testing this, it would say, you know, this flow failed on these assets because of X, but it's just not giving us that information.
So there's really no, but in terms of like standard reasons, like it just, is there like a list of like, oh, this is typically why something like this would fail?
Yeah, let's get into the considerations because that's really gonna show you why. All right, so to find these considerations, I really just had to do a bunch of testing, create different assets, see what copied over, see what was unique about them, if they failed, and just create and check and create and check and create and check. So this is what I found. Custom fields. So what is copied when you use this flow? It's going to be the field name, the field API name, and the field type. But as far as your more granular details on that field, like your field mapping to Salesforce, which system is the system of record, predetermined values if it's like a pick list, or optional settings like validate this field on import, that kind of stuff. That is not going to carry over. So if you use this flow to copy custom prospect fields, you're still going to have to go into those fields and set up the details, but at least it'll get the field names and the types and the API names in there to match your other business unit. And these I didn't see fail a lot. The only time I saw a failure is if there was already a field with the same API name, it would fail. Engagement Studio programs. So this flow is going to copy the structure. It's going to copy your wait days. And if you have steps that are using a field that is in both business units with the same API name, it'll copy that as well. But it's not going to copy your recipient list or your suppression list because those lists are going to be unique to the business unit. It's also not going to copy your send dates and times or allow prospects to enter more than once. So those settings you configure at the top of the Engagement Studio. And it's not going to configure your assets like your emails or your landing pages or forms that you're checking. And that's typically going to be because those assets are going to have a different ID. So the bulk asset copy flow can't really tell what is the equivalent in the other business unit.
But is it possible to, so I think you said that it's possible to move like email assets though. So like if you were to have like created like an email for an engagement studio, yeah, Kara, exactly. Could you in a separate action just bring over the email into the email or emails into into this other BU?
Yeah. So if you were pulling over an Engagement Studio program, you would want to select not only the Engagement Studio program, but all email templates involved in it in your flow. And then it'll create it in the new or the other business unit, but you'll still have to go through that Engagement Studio program and reselect the email templates.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you're not going to have to, but it's, I mean, it is an extra step, but it's not as much of an extra step as manually rebuilding email. You just have to go through, you have to do a separate flow action to a flow, build a different flow to bring over those assets.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, Tyler's got a good point. The logic of the Engagement Studio program, if you've ever tried to manually copy an Engagement Studio program from one BU to the next when you can't have them like both open at the same time, it's a little bit of a pain. I used to take screenshots, go into the other BU, do some steps, go back, more screenshots, and yeah, this is much easier.
So this is probably a good, this is a good tool if you're not necessarily trying to do like if you're like, oh, I have a single BU that has a whole bunch of assets in it. It's not necessarily, I mean, you could still do it, but it's still gonna be like a pretty decent investment in time to have to move a lot of assets. This is probably the use case for this is where you're like, oh, I built this thing in my EMEA BU that I also want to have in my North America BU, and I want to have that flow or that engagement studio. But if you're like saying, oh, I need to completely replicate 3/4 of one BU into another, that's going to be a long process. And
yeah.
The opportunity, and because as she said, things will fail, you're going to be doing a lot of hot fixes, or trying to kind of go in and work out why all these are failing. So I would just, as a caution, just based on what it sounds like, Erin, is that this is a good situation, good opportunity for individual, like saying like more tactical, like replication across BUs, not necessarily like a wholesale moving of dozens of assets from one BU to another.
Yeah, I mean, when you're implementing a new org with multiple business units, it would come in handy because during an implementation, you're just going to do kind of those core assets, maybe like the email template that you use because it just has like the design in it and stuff like that. Or you may add 100 custom fields when you're implementing it. So instead of having to do everything twice, you can copy it over and then you pretty much only have to do 50% of the work twice.
Yeah,
so that
makes sense.
Yeah. And then Tyler has a good question with email templates. So I think email templates is next. So email templates, all the assets are going to be copied in terms of images, footers, all of that. But the big caveat here is that if your email template contains dynamic content, it will fail. I couldn't find any way around that in my testing. And it's probably because dynamic content is unique to the business unit. So even if you have the same dynamic content set up in both of your business units, they're going to have a different ID and a different merge tag. So there's no way to carry them over between. So that's going to be, the biggest problem you run into with email templates is if it has dynamic content, it will not work.
So the email, so when you say it will not work, the email would still would the actual like flow fail because
Yeah.
it's because like, okay, so the flow is also doing kind of an asset inspection. Like,
yeah, it's probably looking at the merge tags, because merge tags can be the same across the org, like if you're using first name or unsubscribe and stuff like that. But dynamic content ones, it doesn't matter. I mean, they're not going to be the same across BUs, but even if you happen to get the same ID between BUs, it's still not going to be a one-to-one relationship.
okay. So when you select an email, for example, that has dynamic content in it, the flow is going to, as part of the process to pass it over, it's gonna look at, I mean, effectively they're kind of like the raw, like the code that the asset is contains, and if it finds a dynamic content merge language, it's just going to disqualify it right away.
I mean, that's what I don't have any way to prove that's what it's doing.
Okay,
But
that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just trying to get my arms around, like, is it that the flow is going to fail, or the email is going to fail in terms of not containing that piece?
The flow, like when you get to that confirmation screen, it won't list the email template as created.
Oh, okay. I see.
So that's going to be.
So it's at the actual selection phase. It's not even going to let you pick it if it has.
No, it'll let you pick it.
Oh, it will. Okay.
Yeah, but when you get to the screen, you know how I selected 5 assets and only 2 showed as successful. The email template I probably selected probably had dynamic content.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That's going to be the #1 issue if your email template fails. A couple other things to know about email templates. So when they're copied, the sender is going to be replaced by general user with the email replace at example.com. And this is the case if you have a sender hierarchy, if you are sending from a user that's in both business units, anything I tested, it's still replaced with general user at replace at example.com. And with the new domain restrictions, account engagement will not let you send that email template until you adjust that. But Optimizer is also going to give you alerts when you have email templates with non-verified sender domains. So it's going to be very easy to find these and replace them. And then another thing I tested is essentially, what if I copy an email template from business unit A to business unit B? Then I update the template in A, and then I copy it again to B. What's going to happen? And in those cases, the flow is not going to update the email template that already exists. It's going to create a brand new template. So just keep that in mind. If you're editing assets and then copying them again, it's going to give you a new asset every time. It's not going to just update the existing asset. So I'm just reading the chat. Larry, I see your question about the Sandbox instances, and I'll talk about that a little bit after we get through the considerations. All right, so we've got custom redirects. So what's copied there is going to be your Google UTM parameters, but your completion actions are not going to copy over. Again, that's probably because it's using assets and fields that are unique to the business unit. And then files is a little tricky. I tested JPEGs, PNGs, PDFs, ICS, font files, every file type I could. And the only files that I could get to copy over between business units were image files, so JPEG and PNG. Everything else failed. And it didn't really give me a reason or anything, but just keep that in mind, is your files are probably only going to work on images.
So can you go back for a second?
Yeah.
So only image files will copy over. So no PDFs, nothing else like that. And when you bring over a custom redirect, I'm guessing that because you're bringing it over into a new BU, or a different BU, the custom redirect URL is going to default to whatever the default domain is for that new BU, since the domain from where it came from is not going to necessarily always exist, or probably won't exist in the new BU that it's being put into.
Right. You can select what tracker domain you want here.
Oh, okay.
It's the same. You can select the same one, but yeah.
Okay, so it's going to, so in the selection process, it's going to query Pardot to say what are the domains that exist in this other BU, and which one do you want to use for this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And then Larry had a good question about how this relates to the flow to copy assets from production to Sandbox. So if you haven't read the Winter 24 new release notes yet, this is a feature that's coming out. So copy marketing assets using API version 5 for flow. Wait, no, that's not that one. This one. New account engagement Sandbox to production. So essentially that's going to let you take aspects of your account engagement sandbox and push them to your account engagement production, more similar to Salesforce change sets, except you're going to do it with a flow. This is the only details I'm able to find about this feature, that an example flow is going to be included so you can do this. I haven't found anything about considerations, limitations, anything like that. If I had to put money on it, I have a feeling that this flow is going to work the same as the bulk asset copy flow, and you're going to have the same considerations where you can pull assets from Sandbox to production, but I don't know, and I'm not confident that you're going to be able to pull configuration.
Yeah, that's going to be, because obviously it's part of a new release. That so there's I I was telling somebody, it cracked me up how this is a pretty significant like feature, and it was buried in like the last line in basically the other features section that almost no one clicks on. You're like, oh, this other API changes is this huge kind of game changer of a thing that people have been wanting ever since BUs got introduced. Is, oh, by the way, you can promote to production now. Like,
yeah.
I think that was I think, I don't know, either that was some like weird like little dark joke that somebody made, or there's like they just had no idea how big of a deal that is.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I mean, both of these flows are something that's going to make, especially orgs that are bigger or at the enterprise level, where they have to use sandboxes and they're going to have multiple business units and stuff like that. It's a big game changer for them, and I think it'll make more larger enterprise clients either come to or stick to Pardot. So
Yeah, really, I think the clincher is going to be having someone available to you who's comfortable enough in flows to be able to do this.
yeah.
So it's going to be partners. It's going to be, or somebody who's gone through and done these more kind of technical things.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the fact that it's here is great, because it was not up until now, really.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that big thing that we're going to run into is that depending on your org, I don't see a ton of people who are Salesforce admin also having full Salesforce admin access. But with more and more Salesforce side things coming out for account engagement, there's flows for Pardot, and there's the marketing setup within Salesforce, and the user setup's now controlled by Salesforce, and so on and so forth. It's really pushing Salesforce and Pardot admins into, you may have someone who's both and does a little bit of both in both systems. And I really think that's something that's needed. And for the Salesforce admins who don't want to give Pardot admins, access, we may just have to talk with them, hold their hand, and just tell them it's going to be okay. We do know what we're doing, and we won't break anything. So, any other questions about this flow? I do have some other tips on how to standardize your business units, but if we have more questions and more stuff we want to discuss on this flow, happy to do it.
No, I mean, it seems like it's fairly, straightforward is a relative term, depending on who you are and what your level of experience is. But I think it's definitely great that it's here. There are definitely, it's just hopefully over the next several months or whatever, they'll be more and more transparent about the things that you found that are not possible when it comes to doing this. But I don't have any questions and I don't see anyone else. Brittany says, as a best practice, should we use PNG or JPEGs in emails? PNGs is typically what I do. I don't know, Erin, if you have any thoughts on that.
No, I think our marketing dev team that builds our emails does PNG as well. I want to say it has something to do with resolution, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm more of the person who pokes and tests out all the new tools now. I haven't been building emails in a while.
Mm-hmm. I don't see any more questions in here.
Okay.
Yeah, basically just like the takeaway is that it's I would consider this to be kind of probably their kind of MVP of this, and hopefully since Pardot and Salesforce are putting in the integration at the forefront of really trying to innovate, and I imagine that this will improve over several releases, I hope.
Yeah.
It'll become more, I don't know, more it'll become more capable, and so this is kind of the beginning. And Larry, exactly what you said, it's kind of a step in the right direction. There's a few gotchas, but it's certainly better than nothing, I would say. That's kind of a low bar, but yeah, better than nothing.
Minimal viable products.
Minimal viable product, basically, and it's really good to have.
Yeah.
So,
and when the winter release is out, I'm gonna kind of test this again just to see if anything changed that they didn't put in the documentation. I'm hoping that they'll put in some error messaging in there, so it'll tell you this failed. Here's some clues as to why. That would be hopefully the smallest thing they could add to make it a lot easier. So if that happens, I'll definitely update my blog, tweet about it, all of those things. So
yeah, cool.
Yeah. Well, I do have some other standardization tips for your business units. If you are a multiple business unit user, this is going to help if you're interested in the bulk asset copy flow. Business units have kind of become my niche. So I'm constantly doing implementations with them, and some of the tips I've learned and turned to most I put in here. The biggest thing that I have found helps just hugely across the board is documenting your field mappings. A lot of the orgs I've worked with that has business units are using the same fields, but in different ways in their org. Users have no idea how the fields are used, what's syncing to Salesforce, what the values are. They're using different values across business units. All of those kinds of things can just cause a bad data. So it is tedious to set this up, but I promise you it's worth the effort to set up a Excel sheet that includes, the field name, the API name, where is it syncing to, what values is it using, which PBUs use it, what is this going to be recording, and just have this available to your users, especially your non-admin users, because they can't see these details within our account engagement itself. But yeah, this is definitely something that's worth your time to help standardize your business units. Another big tip is managing your users within Salesforce. If you opt into the manage users with Salesforce thing, you only have to do everything from the Salesforce side. So you can create, public groups in Salesforce to manage your users. These people have access to BU1, and these people have access to BU2, and these people have access to all BUs. And it just makes your life a little bit easier, because then it's going to standardize what roles they have in each BU. It's going to standardize who has access to each one, and it's going to remove them when they are inactivated from Salesforce. And then I think this is my last tip I included in here is align your custom user roles across your business units. So if you have a custom user role that says, email marketer, and they have access to delete things in your US business unit, but not your EU business unit, that can cause a lot of confusion for the users, the admins of each business unit. And it really, from what I've seen, it creates opportunities for users who shouldn't be doing certain things to do it in a business unit. I have seen this where, one role had send access in one business unit and not the other. And they were sending out emails with no one realizing because they thought that custom user role was the same across all business units.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a fun one. Oh, last I always talk about this, universal folder structure and naming conventions. In the flow, we saw that, let's see if it'll let me go back. It won't. Oh, wait, there it is. So when we're selecting things here, we only get to see the name of the asset. Demo offer doesn't really tell me, when this email was created, what campaign it was for, anything. So having a naming convention that people understand across business units is really going to make stuff like this even easier for them to find the right assets and copy them. I would also recommend putting your BU name in your naming convention for your asset, because when you have business units, the only place you can see what business unit you're in is the settings tab. If I'm in emails or any other tabs, there's no indicator of what business unit I'm in. And I have spent, 2 hours building engagement studio programs in the wrong business unit because I thought it was the other one. So.
Oh, that's brutal.
Yeah.
Did you already mention about, like, when it comes to this BU? Well, I guess you wouldn't really need to do a BU movement for lightning emails because they're not. I mean, they are constrained by BU, but at the campaign level. So
yeah.
So how would that work? Like, I guess you just have to.
So like, if this, where's the I think the campaign is when you send it. So when you send email content, you select your campaign. And so if I selected a campaign that belongs to business unit A, the email template's gonna belong to that one. I can then either send it again and send it with a campaign that belongs to business unit B, or I can copy it, make some edits, and then when I'm ready to send, do business unit B. And it's the same with landing pages. You just change the campaign on it. However, landing pages, the only issue there is whatever campaign connects to the business unit is going to control what forms you have access to. So if you copy a landing page and change the business unit to a campaign that belongs in the other business unit, you also need to change your form, because a form that belongs in business unit A will not work on a landing page belonging to business unit B.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this is it's not necessarily a part of, like, it's not necessarily like a flow thing, like, right, for this. It's more of a more of a kind of just general making sure that your campaigns are in the right BUs.
Yeah.
And then your emails are aligned to them in forms. Okay, so that helps. Because I mean, the other thing is, like, when you're talking, when you're like, when you mentioned like folder structure and the flow, is that able to move like folder structures from one to another? No. Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
I feel like that might be coming. Maybe, I don't know. It seems like it'd be easy to do, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have my own theories about folders, because, as you know, the landing page with email builders, though the emails that come out of that, they don't go in the Pardot folders. because it's not the same system. And they are going to release a new form builder in the vein of the email and landing page builder. It's going to be like more of a drag and drop kind of a vibe that way. And I expect that it's not going to be part of the foldering system, much like the other ones. So the foldering system is, I mean, it may be kind of a not long for this world.
Yeah, I think everything's going to move to just campaign centered. I mean, it's been moving that direction ever since connected campaigns. The thing I'm curious about is, are we still going to have scoring categories, and are they going to tie to campaigns instead of folders?
Yeah, there's big kind of like really important pieces of the platform that are going to be that need to be kind of rethought through in order to be functional in a world where Pardot, where like, I mean, I envision probably in the next 24 to 48 months, Lightning, the Pardot Lightning app is probably going to go away because they'll be moving more and more. I mean, they've already taken a huge amount of the assets of the actual core asset creation out of the Lightning app. The email, the landing pages, the form builders coming out of the Lightning app. I mean, those are like the three like big pillars. So I would not be surprised.
I just started liking the Lightning app.
I mean, this is my kind of like galaxy brain, like trying to like think 10 steps ahead, but I feel like the writing is kind of on the wall that it's good that they're eventually going to, it's eventually going to, I don't know, and maybe even further down the road, but they're taking a lot of core, like big functionality that was in the Lightning app out of it. And I think when the form builder drops, that's just going to be another shoe. And I don't know. These are just my theories, but
no, I definitely think they're good. I mean, I know some people have worried like, oh, is Pardot going to go away? Well, the word Pardot is eventually. Is account engagement going to go away? And I think the answer to that is no, but it is going to continue to evolve to be more and more on platform. You know, for so long, if you're a longtime user, it was two different systems connected by the Salesforce connector, and now we're moving to it being a fully integrated system. So I look forward to that. You know, you don't have to have as much stuff between the two systems.
No, I agree. I think it's definitely all the signs have indicated. I mean, if you look at just even where they've been putting their development hours per release, they've been kind of like reluctantly implementing things that we've been asking for years, just to kind of be able to say that they did it, like the shorter wait times, for example, on the engagement studio.
So excited.
That's huge, but it's like, it felt like they were very reluctant to do that until someone was like, just give it to them. Just give them so they'll shut up about it. But everything else has been about enhancing the integration between the two. And so every release seems to be more and more about how can Pardot and Salesforce get closer and closer together. To where there's increasingly less daylight between the two. And the form builder is going to, I don't know when that's going to drop, but soon, I imagine. The brand center, I'm sure you've been on calls about the brand center. The brand center is going to, I was kind of expecting it to be in this release because they've been tinkering with it for so long. Feels like over a year at this point, because I was on some very early mock-up calls, and it was. So yeah, I mean, the brand center is going to be in Salesforce, probably in the marketing setup, I'm guessing. Not going to be on the Lightning app. So I don't know. Anyways, we just had a little sidebar about the future of the platform. But
that's what these user groups are for.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, this was really good. I appreciate you doing the walkthrough here. If I haven't seen any more questions come through, but if something comes up, I'll let them know. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
Yeah. So I'm on LinkedIn. I think my LinkedIn username is just Erin Duncan. My Twitter is a little bit different. It's Erin Duncan. There's no I in it. I'll put it in the chat. I'm not too active on Twitter besides posting just news about account engagement. So if that's what you want to hear about, follow me. If you want to see funny memes and all of that, I don't really post that too often. So.
Okay, cool.
Also, I'll be at Dreamforce. So Ben, I know you will be as well.
I will.
So if you are going to be at Dreamforce, come say hey.
Yep, the Sercante has a bunch of home for marketers stuff. So if you're going to be at Dreamforce, make sure you go to those. There's several events planned. I'll be at a couple of them. So yeah, thanks so much for doing this, though. This was super helpful. Yeah, this will be posted on YouTube and Pardot Geeks and probably Sercante blog at some point and all that. So you'll have it for reference. And I'll email everybody the recording as well.
Yeah, and I'll send you the deck in case you want to share that out.
Awesome, that'd be great. Cool. All right, well, thank you everybody for joining, and have a good rest of your day, night, morning, wherever you are in the world watching this. There is another meeting happening. Let's see, when's the next one? This one is on September 7th with your colleague, Adam.
Okay. Adam Erstell?
He's going to be talking about how to support multi-language in a Pardot form.
Oh, that'll be a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. This came from a blog post that he wrote about a simple way to create multi-language account engagement forms. Something that increasingly comes up when you're dealing with organizations that have an international presence and they want to be able to provide forms in the language that they are of the region that they are targeting. So I put that in the chat. That is on September 7th. So RSVP for that. And then there's Dreamforce, and then I'll get some more stuff scheduled before the end of the year. But again, thanks everybody for joining, and have a good rest of your day. And thanks, Erin, for taking time to do this.
Yeah. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.